It was March of 2019, a damp Friday night in Ash Grove, Maine. I'd just finished my shift at the diner and wanted to clear my head. The kind of tired that doesn't come from work, just from being alive too long without anything changing. There was a theater 3 blocks from my apartment. Old place, Ash Grove Cinema. One screen still used film reels. The letters on the marquee were cracked, the E hanging sideways like a loose tooth. Inside, it smelled like butter that had soaked too deep into the carpet to ever leave. I liked that smell. It meant people had been there before me, laughing, whispering, living. The kid at the counter looked half asleep, hair sticking out from under his cap. "One for the Hollow Manor," I said. He blinked, tore my ticket, and pointed. "Theater 2, down the hall, last door on the left." I was the only one walking that hallway. Every step echoed off the patterned walls. Someone had left the mop bucket near the janitor's closet, a thin trail of water catching the yellow light. Inside the auditorium, the air felt still. Not cold exactly, just still. Rows of empty seats waiting for anyone at all. I picked one in the middle, placed my soda in the holder, and sank back. For a moment, I thought maybe they'd canceled the show. Then the projector hummed. A soft white beam cut through the dust, painting the air in floating specks. That sound, the flicker and spin, always calmed me. Halfway through the previews, the door creaked open. Someone else had come in. A man, maybe 40, wearing a long coat that brushed the floor. He didn't buy popcorn, didn't even glance my way. Just walked to the far corner of the back row and sat down. No big deal. People watch movies alone all the time. But I couldn't shake the way the door never fully closed behind him. It hung open just enough for a sliver of light to stretch down the aisle. The movie started. On screen, rain poured across a dark house. In real life, the sound of it mixed perfectly with the faint rattle of the air vent above us. For a while, I forgot the man was there. Then I heard it. A soft tap, not from the speakers, but from the row behind me. Like a shoe shifting, then stillness. I told myself it was nothing. Old seats creak, floors settle, another tap. Closer, I turned my head slightly, pretending to adjust my jacket. All I saw were shadows, but the sliver of hallway light had disappeared. The door was shut now. I leaned forward, whispering to no one. Guess someone got cold. My voice sounded small in that space. On screen, a character walked through a long hallway holding a flashlight. The timing was strange, almost mocking, because just then, the same faint hum of a flashlight switch clicked somewhere behind me. Not loud, just click. Then silence. I didn't move, didn't even breathe for a second. Maybe it was my phone, I thought. But my screen was dark. When I finally looked back, there was a dim circle of light playing across the carpet, a few rows up, sweeping side to side like someone searching for something small. The light vanished as soon as I saw it. The projector flickered. The reel popped. The film stuttered for half a heartbeat and then continued. I tried to relax. Told myself it was a staff member checking for stragglers. But my stomach didn't believe that. Around halfway through the movie, I caught another sound. This one lower. A whisper. Not words, just a vibration. Breath moving through teeth. It came and went in rhythm with the dialogue, almost syncing with the voices on screen. Every time the characters spoke, the whisper echoed a beat after, like someone repeating them quietly, imperfectly. I pressed the button on my phone to check the time. 10:42 p.m., still plenty left. I almost got up, almost left, but curiosity pinned me to the seat. The next scene cut to a shot of an attic door slowly opening, and from behind me, I heard that same sound, the creak of hinges, soft, drawn out, too real to be the movie's surround sound. I turned, my heart thudding. The back row door to the projection booth was ajar, light spilling through a narrow gap. That's when the smell hit me. Not butter or carpet cleaner this time. Something metallic. Faint, but sharp enough to sting the nose. I whispered, "Hello?" No answer. Only the projector's whir, steady and indifferent. For the rest of the film, nothing else happened. No whispers, no movement. When the credits rolled, I exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. I gathered my cup and jacket, waiting for the lights to brighten. They didn't. Only the projector light stayed on, white and humming, as the reel slapped in its final spin. I turned to glance toward the back. The seat where the man had been sitting was empty, but on it, something faintly reflected the projector beam. A flashlight, turned off, resting perfectly upright on the cushion. That's when the overhead lights finally flicked on. I blinked hard, and the flashlight was gone. I left fast. The hallway felt longer on the way out, the buzz of the ceiling lights louder. At the counter, the kid looked up from his phone. "Good movie?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound normal. "How many people were in Theater 2 tonight?" He frowned. "Just you." I looked back through the glass toward the corridor. The mop bucket was gone too. Something tells me that night wasn't the end of it, just the opening credits. Some places have rules on the wall. Old theaters teach you in whispers. Tell me where you're listening from tonight, and what time your local last showing ends. Have you ever been in a nearly empty screen? I didn't sleep much after Ashgrove Cinema. The projector hum lived in my apartment all night, a phantom sound I couldn't turn off. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that flashlight sitting upright on a seat, catching the beam, then not there when the lights came up. By morning, the memory felt like a dream told out of order. I still had the ticket stub in my pocket, paper proof that I had been there, alone, according to the kid at the counter. I worked the breakfast shift, poured coffee for the same 6 regulars, and decided by noon that I was going back. Not for the movie, for the rules. Old buildings have them, not posted rules. The ones you learn by messing up and getting corrected by the space itself, where to stand when a door sticks, which light buzzes unless you flick it twice, which seat squeals if you touch the armrest. I wanted to learn Ashgrove's rules. I walked over at 4, rain misting the street, the smell of wet leaves coming up from the drains. The marquee still had that sideways E. Inside, the same kid worked the counter. He recognized me in that way small towns do. "You were here last night," he said, not asking. "Yeah." I slid the stub across the counter. "Question for you. Who runs the booth?" He glanced over my shoulder like a manager might appear out of thin air. "We're short-staffed," he said. "Most nights I do it. Sometimes Mara." "Can I talk to Mara?" He hesitated, then reached for a bell. A soft ding disappeared into the hallway hush. A woman in her 60s appeared from behind the concessions line, wiping her hands on a bar towel. Short gray hair, neat cardigan, careful eyes. "You're looking for me or trouble?" she asked, half smiled tight but not unkind. "Maybe both," I said. "I saw something in Theater 2. She studied the ticket stub, then my face. "Tell me quick." I told her the small version. The back row visitor, the door that wouldn't quite close, the flashlight pool on the carpet, the smell, the empty seat with the light standing upright, and the lights not coming up when they should. I kept out the part where the flashlight vanished when the house lights flicked on. It already felt like cheating to say it. Mara listened without blinking. When I finished, she didn't laugh. She didn't offer a tidy reason. She nodded once, then pointed to the end of the hallway. "Come with me," she said. The halls seemed longer in daytime. No audience noise, just that padded quiet made of carpet and old soundproofing. On the way, she tapped a thermostat with her knuckle. "If the heat kicks at 10:10, that back door tugs itself shut," she said. "Suction from the vents. That's one rule." She led me through the small staff door beside Theater 2, up a narrow metal stair into the booth. It smelled like dust, warm metal, and a faint, sweet note I couldn't place. The projector sat like a sleeping animal, fat body, narrow throat, lens capped. Mara moved easily, one switch, a soft click, a timer blinking awake on a rack. 2 runs tonight, she said. The Hollow Manor at 7:15 and a re-release at 9:50. People like being scared when it's late. Unwise, but popular. Do you keep logs? I asked. She pulled a clipboard from a hook and set it on a milk crate. Neat handwriting, columns for reel changes, start times, house lights, notes about sound. Last night's line for Theater 2 was short. Start, 9:30 p.m. House lights down, 9:29 p.m. House lights up, 11:14 p.m. Notes, minor pop in reel 3. Only 1 ticket sold? I asked. 2, she said, matter of fact. Compensation for staff safety. When the auditorium has 1 person, we count a shadow. I waited for the joke that didn't come. Is that a policy? Old one, she said. Cities used to require another adult in the room for late single patrons. Keeps honest people honest. We do what we can. Then who? The shadow doesn't buy popcorn, she said, sliding the clipboard back in place. He also doesn't pick up after himself. That part annoys me. I wanted to tell her that my shadow left a flashlight behind. Instead, I pointed to the far wall of the booth, a slim observation pane looking down at row Z. The glass had faint scuffs, little crescents like someone had tapped a coin against it in a pattern. 3 dots, pause, 2 dots, repeated in a lazy diagonal. Kids? I asked. Mara followed my gaze. Or boredom, she said. Humans always knock back at the galaxy. What about the smell? I asked. Metallic, not strong, enough to taste. She nodded toward a shelf with silver tape and a stack of spliced film. When you cut and join old stock, you smell acetate and a little heat. If the splice is sloppy, you smell it longer. She lifted a spool to show me a tiny joint, clean, almost invisible. Mine aren't sloppy. We went back down. In the auditorium, house lights sat low, that afternoon lull where the screen is a pale window with nothing outside it. No movie yet, only room tone and the distant cough of a soda fountain. This is where you sat? Mara asked. Middle, maybe row L. She pointed at row Z, last seat on the right. That's where your friend would have been if he came in from the hall and didn't like people. You said long coat? Floor length. Then he doesn't like drafts. She stepped into the aisle and pressed 2 fingers against the wall near the back. There, recessed and painted the same red as the carpet border, was a vent plate. This rattles every night at 10:12. You'll hear it if you're listening for other things. We stood still, no rattle yet. Only the gentle tick of the exit sign and the softest clink from somewhere in the ceiling, like a wire settling. Every building, she said, has an hour where it tells you what it is. This one sings at 10 past. I believed her more than I wanted to. Do you ever get repeats? I asked. Same sound, same minute? Her mouth pressed thin. Echoes, she said. Yes. And people? She took a breath that made her cardigan shift at the shoulders. Once, she said. Years back. I waited. She didn't elaborate. Instead, she pointed to the armrest of the seat beside me. A coin lay there upright, balanced on its edge as if someone had just rolled it, and it froze. Nickel, old worn. I hadn't seen it when we walked in. Mara picked it up without ceremony, dropped it into the little pocket on the side of her apron. No rolling coins in the house, she said. Rule 2. Who sets the rules? I asked. She did that almost smile again. The room, she said. I stayed through the first showing that night. Not for the film, I'd seen it, but to feel the place at full capacity. Teenagers whispered. A couple in their 40s shared a blanket. A man coughed in pairs. Normal sounds made their map. No extra tap, no flashlight, no metallic tang. At 9:35, the crowd for the re-release filtered in. Fewer people this time. A trio in hoodies, a woman alone 4 rows ahead of me, and a tall man who took the aisle seat near the exit, eyes on his phone until the trailers ended. I checked the time as the credits for the old classic rolled. 10:09 p.m. I listened. At 10:12, the vent gave one gentle buzz and a short rattle. Mara had called it. Then something else, almost immediately after. A click like a flashlight switch from the back row. I turned. No light, just darkness that felt thicker than it had a minute earlier. On screen, the hero walked into a room and stood still, listening. The whole audience went quiet with him. And in that silence, the whisper came, breath shaped into a sound you feel first in the jaw. It didn't mimic dialogue this time. It arranged itself into 2 long notes, then stopped. Not music, a signal. The woman 4 rows ahead adjusted her scarf and glanced back as if she had also felt it, then looked away. I stood up slowly and edged to the aisle. This wasn't courage. Curiosity makes its own mask. Back row, empty. Seat Z3 where the nickel had been earlier. Nothing special. The door to the booth was shut, no gap for light. A soft flick brushed the back of my hand. Cool air from the vent. I pressed my palm to the wall where Mara had pressed hers. The metal hummed faintly under the paint, an insect trapped behind a screen. "Sir?" a whisper said. For a second I thought the theater itself had talked. Then I realized the tall man by the exit had stood and was speaking to me. Kept his voice low to be kind. "You okay?" "Fine," I said. "Just stretching." I sat again, third from the back this time, hands on my knees like they belonged to someone else. The final reel ran without incident. No more whispers, no coin. When the lights came up, everyone filed out in that polite, slow way audiences do when they aren't sure how much they liked what they saw. I waited until the room was empty and walked to row Z again. Something on the cushion caught the overhead light in a thin glint. Not a flashlight. A tiny strip of clear tape stuck edge up, the sort used to join film. On it, pressed into the adhesive, a short gray hair. I carried it to the aisle, unsure what I planned to do with a piece of tape that might be nothing. Mara appeared at the top of the stairs as if summoned. "You hear the 10:12?" she asked. "I did," I said and held out the tape. "Also found this." She took it with careful fingers and set it on her open palm. "Booth work sheds," she said. "We clean, but nothing's perfect." "You said echoes," I said. "What repeats, exactly?" Instead of answering, she pointed to the wall clock near the exit. Hands at 11:14. "Lights go up at this time every late show, no matter what. Rule 3. "They were late last night," I said. She didn't blink. Then last night broke a rule. We stood there in the aisle, the projector cooling behind the wall, making little tinks in the quiet. Mara looked at me like she was weighing something. "If you insist on coming back," she said, "you don't sit in the same seat twice. You don't wear strong scent. You don't bring a flashlight." "Why not a flashlight?" "Because it likes to be first," she said. "If you turn one on, it argues." "It?" She tilted her head toward the booth window. The glass held only our reflections and a soft smear of light. "I'll be in the office," she said gently. "If you hear the 2 notes again, you don't answer back. That's rule 4. "Answer how?" Her eyes held mine a long second. "Some people whistle," she said, and left before I could say I wasn't one of them. I stayed in the lobby a while, pretending to look at old posters while my brain worked at the rules like knots. The kid at the counter dozed over a stack of cups. Rain tapped the glass doors, steady and soft. When I finally stepped outside, the street was empty. I took one breath of night air and checked my phone. A new message blinked from an unknown number. It was a photo, taken from high above, angled down at row L of the back of my head in Theater 2. Timestamp, 10:12 p.m. No caption. I looked up at the dark window above the lobby doors. 2 smudges on the glass caught the streetlight, a pair of fingertip prints side by side, like someone had been watching with their hands to the pane. I didn't go back inside. Not then. But I read the message again and understood something quiet. I hadn't been learning the rules. I'd been told them. Back home, my phone buzzed once more. New message. A tiny audio file only 2 seconds long. When I pressed play, the room filled with a soft, patient whistle. 2 notes and then waiting. Some buildings hear you first, then they answer. Tell me in the comments the smallest sound that ever made your skin prickle. A click, a breath, a chair settling. I want the quiet ones. The audio file was only 2 seconds long. 2 notes held with patience and then waiting. I listened to it 5 times in a row at my kitchen table while the fridge hummed and the street outside breathed rain. It felt like standing at a door with someone on the other side, both of us unsure who should knock next. I did not sleep. At dawn, light came in the color of dishwater. I showered, changed, and told myself I would ignore the theater for 1 day. By noon, I had my coat on. Ashgrove sat with its tilted letter, a small grin that never reached the eyes. Inside, the lobby felt half awake. The kid at the counter nodded, then remembered to smile. Mara was not in sight. The air carried butter and something tonic, like cleaner not fully rinsed. I did not plan a line. Still, when Mara appeared near the concession warmer, my mouth knew what to say. I received a recording, I said. 2 notes from an unknown number. She did not reach for it. She did not ask to listen. She took me in quietly, then pointed her chin toward the hallway. Office, she said. We walked behind the ticket podium through a door marked Employees. A narrow room with a metal desk, a corkboard pinned with schedules, a coffee maker that looked older than the building. On the wall, a black and white picture in a cheap frame, dated in the corner with a ballpoint pen, 1978. 3 people stood under the same marquee. The E already leaned then. Tell me exactly when the message arrived, Mara said. After I left, I said. At home. 11:19 p.m. She nodded. Our rules change after the building empties, she said. That is when it prefers to speak plainly. It, I said, and heard my voice try to make a joke. It did not land. How many rules are there? As many as you need, she said. Fewer than you want. She pulled a drawer open and placed something on the desk. A handful of curled scraps of clear tape with dust on the edges. Each piece trapped a single gray hair, or a speck, or nothing at all. An echo leaves a receipt, she said. You think the message is an echo. I think you were noticed. I did not like how that felt in my stomach. It was not fear exactly, more like recognition arriving before consent. In the booth, she said, we have a spool that never threads the way it should. Same reel number, same minute. The splice slips, then holds. If I cut it earlier, it slips later. If I cut it later, it slips earlier. It is not faulty stock. It is something insisting on a mark. What happens at the minute? I asked. House lights rise for a breath, she said, then settle again. Which minute? You know it, she said. You keep saying it. 10:12 lived in my head the way a song does when you never learn the words. Come at 6, she said. There is a show at 7:15. You can sit in row B with the children and whisperers, or you can stand with me. With you, I said, before the part of me that wants comfort could answer for both of us. I left to work my shift at the diner. Coffee, pie, a couple on a late lunch date, a man who ate soup as if weighing each spoonful. Normal hours made a sturdy bridge. At 5:40 I crossed back. Mara met me at the small staircase behind the side door. Up in the booth, The air was warmer than I remembered. The projector cover stood open, the lens clean enough to see my face round and soft inside it. The rack lights blinked in calm sequence. "Rule 5, she said, as if picking up a conversation we had paused years ago. "We say hello to machines. They return the favor." She tapped the housing with 2 fingers. "Evening," she said to the projector. She handed me a headset with 1 foam ear. "House mic is off," she said. "But you can hear the room a little better this way. I find the mind behaves if you give it a prop." On the observation pane, the auditorium stretched out, empty except for a teenage pair who had chosen the back and a man with a white paper bag in the 4th row, an arrangement of small islands on a red sea. "Where did you work before this?" I asked, partly to test my voice. "Here," she said. "And a library when I was 20. Buildings with spines." She flipped a switch. The house dimmed. The pre-show reel spun to life, a parade of local ads, trivia still wrong about who directed the same famous film. Down below, a late pair hurried in and took seats near the aisle. The door's side closed. Air settled. Mara leaned close enough that I could smell mint on her breath. "We do not speak during 10 to 12, she said. "Understood." "Rule 6, she added softer. "Do not promise anything out loud." The feature started. The story on screen occupied most minds in the room, but the booth existed slightly to the left of that world. In the headset, the auditorium became a map of tiny noises: seat springs, documentary coughs, a zipper, popcorn rhythm, a child whispering a question that even they forgot at the end of the sentence. The first half hour unfolded without a single wrong note. Somewhere in the film, a character held her breath to listen at a vent. I felt my own chest follow her. At 10:10, a mild pressure brushed my eardrum like weather changing, and the hair on my forearm rose along an old traffic line. Mara did not look at me. She looked at the clock. We stood, 2 people in a narrow room, as still as the lamp we stood beside. At 10:12, the vent in the auditorium gave its polite rattle, almost friendly. In the same instant, the headset caught a sound like the softest finger along paper. 2 notes answered, held and released. Nobody down there moved. No one turned. On the screen, rain fell in a way that made everyone briefly aware of their own breathing. The house lights brightened a fraction, enough to silver 2 armrests, then returned to low. Mara's jaw flexed. She adjusted a dial that did nothing. "How long?" I whispered, breaking rule something. "Years," she said, softer. "Never more than this. Never less." I watched the back row. Seat Z3 was empty. Seat Z5 held the teen couple. Seat Z7, where no one sat, flickered for a blink as if something had shifted on the cushion and disturbed dust. My heart did a small wrong trip. The headset recorded only silence now, and the small lives of the audience. The reel finished without another event. The credit music, the shuffling exit, the low talk of people naming the parts that stuck. In the booth, the projector gave its tink-tink as it cooled. Mara set the headset down and opened a red tin on the shelf. Inside lay coins dressed in tape. She lifted the tin and I saw the label on the bottom. Lost and found. "You keep them," I said. "I do not throw away a pattern," she said. "Rule 7. We watched the staff enter to sweep. The kid at the counter came in with a trash bag and a face that said he hoped to finish before his bus. He moved seat to seat, swift, practiced. Halfway down the middle row, he froze, then bent slowly, then looked toward the back like a child checks a doorway. "What?" I asked, then caught myself. No need to speak the question. Mara was already stepping for the stairs. By the time we reached the aisle, the kid had backed toward the exit, hands up as if to show he had taken nothing. On the armrest of row K sat a flashlight, small, black, upright on its end, as if set by a careful hand. Mara did not touch it. She crouched and looked from the side the way you look at an animal you do not want to startle. The kid swallowed audibly. "That was not there," he said. "I just did this row." "I know," Mara said. "It belongs in Lost and Found," the kid offered, voice thin. "Not yet," she said. "Go clock out, Liam." When he had gone, she slid a paper napkin under the base of the light and lifted it to her palm. She did not switch it on. She only turned it slightly so the overhead reflection ran along the metal seam. "See the nick," she said, "near the cap. A tiny bite out of the edge, exactly where a thumbnail would worry if someone fidgeted." "I have seen that nick before," she said. "From last night," I said. "From years," she corrected. "I stopped switching it on after the third time. Nothing inside that beam is new." A small cold moved through the seat foam into my knees. A realization, quiet and heavy. "It follows the seat," I said, "not the person." "It follows the rule," she said, and the way she said it made me think the rule was less a line and more a circle. We carried the flashlight to the office. She placed it on the desk and laid one of her tape curls over the cap. "Receipt," she said. "Do you ever answer?" I asked. "The 2 notes." "Once," she said, "with a mirror." "What happened?" "Silence for a week," she said. "Then the nick." She closed the office door, and for a second the latch made a sound not like a latch, more like lips parting. "You should go home," she said. "Tonight it will send something. It prefers the second night when you choose to return." "What do I do with it?" I asked. "Keep it," she said. "That is how you know the line has not moved." Back at my apartment, I poured a glass of water and did not drink it. I set my phone on the table and placed both palms beside it. Streetlights smeared the wall with slow car ghosts. Minutes walked past in their socks. At 11:19 exactly, my phone vibrated once. A new message blinked from the same number. No text, just a file. Not audio this time. Video. The thumbnail showed darkness with a small triangle of light in the lower corner, a shape like a door almost closed. I pressed play. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then the camera moved with a soft bump. The shot climbed, steadied, and looked down into a room I recognized by feel before sight. Row L, seat 3rd from the back, my jacket on the armrest. I saw the line of my neck, the curve of my ear. No sound, only room tone. No human breath, unless you count the projector. At the end of the clip, the frame shifted toward the back wall. The image caught a pale rectangle of glass. The booth pane. A smear there. 2 fingertip prints. The video ended. Below the player, a second file waited. A photo this time, taken in a different light. My thumb hovered and did not press. I looked at the door to my hall. The bolt was set. The chain lay against the wood, idle. When I finally opened the photo, it revealed something small and ordinary that did not belong to me. A ticket stub from last night, the same movie, stamped Theater 2, time marked 7:15 p.m., row printed as Z in a little black square. Across the bottom, someone had written in pencil, neat and steady, "Hello." The paper lay on what looked like my kitchen table. Same nick in the laminate, same cup ring. It had been set down where my elbow rested now. I did not touch the table. I did not breathe for a few heartbeats. The phone buzzed once more. A final text. No attachment, only 4 words. House lights. 10:12. A soft draft lifted the edge of the curtain above my sink. Somewhere down the hall, a faint 2-note whistle waited for me to decide whether it was inside the apartment or in the building's bones. Every theater has a time it remembers you. Ash Grove's is 10:12. Where are you listening from tonight? If you've ever worked somewhere that felt like it was watching you, tell me where. By the 4th night, I had stopped pretending I wouldn't go back. Some things you don't decide. You drift toward them. The flashlight still sat on my kitchen counter, a neat cylinder of weight and memory. I hadn't turned it on. Sometimes it hummed faintly when I walked by, though that might have been the fridge. At work, a customer asked if I was all right. "You look like you haven't slept." I smiled the way people do when the truth would only confuse. That evening I left early. Rain had turned to fog. The streetlights bled into it, hazy and slow. Ashgrove's marquee glowed pale against the mist, its crooked letter haloed like an apology. Mara was waiting near the side door, holding an envelope the color of old paper. "You left this behind," she said. She was lying. I could tell by the way she didn't look at it while she spoke. I took it anyway. Inside was a single page, yellowed, corners soft, typed in uneven ink. Across the top, in faded red, House Rules, Theater 2. Beneath, a numbered list, not all of it legible. Enter before lights down. Remain seated when the beam flickers. No flashlights after 10 o'clock. Do not answer back. Echoes belong to the booth. Leave one item behind. No seat twice. 10:12 belongs to him. No signature, no date. I looked up, but Mara was gone. Inside, Theater 2 was nearly empty. Just the faint murmur of previews and the smell of popcorn oil baked into the carpet. I chose a seat far from my usual one, row D this time, center aisle. The film tonight wasn't horror, a documentary, something quiet and slow. I barely saw it. I kept thinking about Rule 6. Leave one item behind. What would that even mean? A coin? A ticket stub? A part of yourself? Halfway through the film, a soft knock came from the back of the room. Not loud, just one. Then a second. Like someone knocking politely from behind the wall. No one else seemed to notice. The others stayed slumped in their chairs, glowing blue from the screen. I turned to look. The projection booth light was on. Through the glass I saw movement, a shadow long and thin, crossing once, then again. But the rhythm didn't match Mara's pacing. It was too smooth, too steady. I thought of the message on my phone. House lights, 10:12. The time on my watch read 10:08. I should have left then. Instead, I waited. At 10:12, the vent gave its single rattle. Then the light in the booth dimmed. A glow bloomed behind the projection pane, spreading like dawn across fogged glass. And for a moment, I saw something impossible. A second image layered over the film. Rows of seats filled with silhouettes that didn't belong to the people in the room. Each one upright, facing forward, motionless. Their outlines shimmered like heat on metal. The house lights lifted halfway and I caught a clear glimpse. One empty seat in the back. Z7. It pulsed faintly, as if light were trapped inside the fabric. Then the projector snapped back to normal. The silhouettes vanished. The air seemed to exhale. The rest of the movie passed like nothing had happened. When it ended, I stayed seated until the last credit rolled away. Only then did I realize I'd left my phone in my jacket pocket, zipped shut. I hadn't filmed, hadn't taken a single note, but the envelope was gone. In its place on the floor lay something else. A folded sheet of printer paper, newer, clean. It had the same heading, House Rules, Theater 2. But the list was different now. Enter before lights down. Remain seated when the beam flickers. No flashlights after 10 o'clock. Do not answer back. Echoes belong to the booth. Leave one item behind. No seat twice. 10:12 belongs to you. I carried it to the lobby. Mara stood behind the concession stand, watching the reflection of the dark screen in the glass of the popcorn case. "You left this," I said. She looked at the page, then at me. "No," she said. "It left you." She turned the paper over. On the back, in pencil, a single note. 2 short lines curved slightly. A sketch of a whistle's sound. "I didn't write this," she said. Then quietly, He's learned your name. Who? Her eyes drifted toward the projector room. Whatever answers at 10:12, it listens for the person who breaks a rule. I haven't broken any. She tilted her head. You brought the flashlight back, didn't you? I looked down. My bag felt heavier suddenly. You can't keep its light, she said. You have to give it back before the day ends. I walked home through fog thick enough to hide the street. Every few steps, I thought I heard the faint scrape of metal on pavement behind me. Once I turned fast enough to see a brief gleam in the mist, like a small circle of glass catching light. At home, I placed the flashlight on the windowsill. The paper lay beside it, its typed rules trembling in the draft. The flashlight clicked once on its own. A narrow beam spilled across the page. The printed ink shimmered briefly, just one line changing under the light. Rule 8 was no longer there. In its place, new rule pending. That night, the whistle came again. 2 notes, but softer now, as if whoever made them was standing inside the room. I whispered before I could stop myself. What do you want? The sound that followed wasn't a word. It was a quiet inhale, like someone realizing they'd been found. At 10:12, the flashlight turned itself off, and in the dark reflection of my window, I saw another face beside mine, watching, waiting, patient. Part 5. The Booth Key. The first time something whispers your name, you tell yourself you imagined it. The second time, you whisper back. Where are you listening from tonight? Somewhere quiet? Somewhere with a light still on? I woke to light flickering across my ceiling. The flashlight, still on the sill, blinked once every few seconds, as if remembering something. I didn't touch it, didn't dare. The page of rules was gone. In its place, a small brass key lay where the paper had been. No tag, no ring, cold even in the morning sun. That was the first morning I stopped trying to reason it out. Logic felt like a ladder in a fog, something you could climb until it disappeared under your hands. By noon, I had made up my mind. I'd take the key back to Ashgrove, return it to Mara, and tell her everything. All of it. The rules changing, the whistle, the voice. The walk was silent except for the wind dragging its knuckles against the storefronts. When I reached the theater, the door was locked. Lights off. The sign flipped to closed, even though the matinee should have started. I knocked. No answer. But from the other side came a faint rattle, the sound of something metallic brushing glass. The key in my pocket vibrated. I stepped back. Waited. After a long pause, the lock clicked by itself. The door drifted open a few inches. The lobby smelled of dust and warm metal. The air had the dry weight of something that hadn't moved all day. The kid from the counter wasn't there. Neither was Mara. Only the echo of the popcorn machine ticking quietly, like an old clock. I called out, "Hello?" My voice fell flat against the walls. From somewhere deep in the hall, the projector hummed. The door to Theater 2 stood half open. Inside, the screen glowed blank white, bathing the rows in a ghost of daylight. No one in the seats, no reels spinning, but the booth light burned steady above. I climbed the short stairs, one slow step at a time. The key in my hand pulsed gently, almost like it wanted to lead. The projection booth door was ajar. Inside, the air was thick, warm, oily, and faintly metallic, the same scent I'd noticed that first night. The projector wasn't running, but the reels were turning slowly on their own, whispering through the empty frame like a breath that couldn't stop. On the desk lay Mara's clipboard. A fresh page sat clipped to the top. Show log, October 14th. Under operator, someone had written my name, not my first, my full name. Below that, start, 10:12 p.m. House lights, NA, notes, key returned, seat claimed. I stared at the paper. The reels kept turning. The key in my hand twitched once, then stopped. Something moved behind the observation glass. A figure, not a reflection, shifted in the light of the screen below. He sat in the back row, still and deliberate, the way you'd sit for a portrait. A long coat draped to the floor. No visible face, just the outline. The curve of his jaw caught in the projector glow. I spoke before I could stop myself. "Who are you?" The projector's hum deepened, like a throat clearing. A low sound threaded through it, not a voice, but a vibration made of consonants. Then a word formed, soft as static. Projection. The seat beside him sagged slightly, as if someone invisible had just sat down. My pulse climbed so high I could hear it in my teeth. I backed from the glass, and the keys slipped from my hand. It clinked once against the floor, and the projector stopped. The silence that followed was so full it rang. Mara's voice broke it, calm, close. "I told you not to come back alone." She stood in the doorway, her cardigan buttoned wrong, her hair damp from rain, but her eyes looked like she hadn't blinked in hours. "You left the rules," I said. "They changed." "They always do," she said. "Every time someone reads them, it learns a new name." "Whose name did it learn before mine?" She looked past me toward the projector. "Mine." I stared. "How long have you been here?" "Long enough," she said. "Not long enough to leave." On the desk, the clipboard shifted slightly. A line of typewriter letters began to appear, one by one, faint and gray. House lights, 1012. Mara exhaled slowly, her breath shaking just once. "It wants to start early tonight," she whispered. "Give me the key." I bent to pick it up. The moment my fingers touched brass, a pulse ran through the floor, a soundless vibration that lifted the hairs on my arms. The projector flared to life. Light flooded the booth. Every reel spun faster until the motion blurred to silver. On the screen below, the blank white frame shifted, and I was looking at the booth itself from the auditorium's point of view. Two figures inside, Mara and me. She whispered, "Don't move." The film version of me didn't listen. He turned toward her, slowly, hesitantly. Then he smiled, a movement that wasn't mine. I felt something cold slide down my spine, like a fingertip tracing bone. Mara grabbed my wrist. "Rule 8, she said, her voice breaking. "Never meet your echo." The lights in the booth flickered once, twice. Her hand tightened. The reels stopped dead. Then darkness. When I woke, I was sitting in the front row of Theater 2. The screen glowed dim gray. No sound, no credits. In my lap lay the brass key. Around its teeth, a strip of tape had been wrapped carefully. On it, in neat handwriting, "Booth operator, active." The flashlight sat upright on the floor beside me, beam pointed toward the ceiling. Its light pulsed twice, paused, then twice again. The whistle, written in light instead of sound. From the back of the theater, a familiar voice drifted forward. Calm, low, like a teacher reminding me of a rule I'd already broken. Seat claimed. The projector flicked on one last time, showing only the outline of a hand turning a key in a lock. And somewhere behind the walls, something began to breathe in rhythm with mine. When something breathes in sync with you, you don't notice right away. It starts small, like the room is matching your rhythm out of politeness. Then it learns to lead. Where are you listening from tonight? If you're somewhere dim, keep one light on for me. Morning came without color. Gray light bled through my curtains, flattening everything it touched. The key still sat on my desk beside the flashlight, which had gone dark again. Finally still. I should have thrown them both away. Instead, I wrote Mara's name on a piece of paper, folded it, and slid it into my pocket. A promise I didn't yet understand. When I reached Ashgrove, the doors were wide open. No lights, no sound, just the faint smell of dust and rain-damp velvet. Inside, the lobby was different. Every poster frame stood empty. glass fogged from the inside. The concession counter was clean, too clean, as if someone had just wiped it down after decades. The air had a weight to it. Rooms get that way when they've decided to remember something. I called out once, "Mara?" The echo that came back didn't match my tone. It came half a breath late and half a note lower. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined it. Then it came again, same pitch, same delay, a perfect rehearsal of my own voice. I didn't wait for a third. I walked down the hall to Theater 2. The door was propped open by a folded piece of paper, the same typewriter font as before. Across it, only 2 words, "Seat changes." Inside, the screen was blank, the air cool, but every seat carried something now. Small personal objects, a scarf, a coffee mug, a wallet photo, a child's shoe, none of it dusty, none of it left long ago. I moved slowly between the rows, my hand brushing the worn fabric of the chairs. When I reached row L, the row I'd first sat in, the air grew warmer, and on the armrest of my old seat lay Mara's cardigan, neatly folded. "Mara," I whispered. A sound answered, the soft click of a projector starting up. The screen flared white. Dust shimmered in the beam. Then an image appeared. Not film, not digital, just real time. It showed the auditorium exactly as it was from above. I could see myself standing there, one hand on her cardigan. But there was another figure too, behind me, near the aisle. Long coat, stillness. Head tilted slightly, like listening to a favorite song. I turned. Nothing there. When I looked back, the screen had changed again. Now it showed the projection booth, empty except for the key lying on the desk. Then the booth door opened, and Mara stepped through. At least I thought it was Mara. Her movements were right, her shape, but her face was washed in the projector's light, features unreadable. She looked up, directly into the camera. No, directly through it, at me. She raised her hand and pointed toward the auditorium, at my seat. The projector stuttered once, the film burning in a quick flare of light, then black. The flashlight at my side clicked on by itself. Its beam aimed straight down the aisle, to row L, seat 3, the one she'd pointed at. I don't remember deciding to walk toward it, but I did. The air grew thick again, almost humid. The closer I got, the more the seat seemed to breathe, rising and falling in time with my chest. I stopped just short, heart thudding in my throat. The cushion moved once, deflating slightly, like someone had just stood up. A faint whisper followed. 2 syllables, almost gentle. "Sit down." I shook my head. "No." The whisper came again, but lower now, closer. "Sit." The flashlight flickered twice, landing on the armrest. Something glinted there, a strip of tape. I leaned closer. Letters pressed into the adhesive, the same faint typewriter font. Operator in training. The room pulsed. The screen behind me flared to life again, flooding everything in a cold white glow. The voice rose from every wall, soft but commanding. Seat claimed. The seat shifted open, as though waiting. When I backed away, my heel struck something on the carpet. A film reel, half wound, unspooled like a silver snake across the aisle. Images glimmered on its frames, faces, each one blurred but somehow familiar. The last frame caught my eye. It was Mara, smiling faintly. Behind her, a shadow leaned close. A hand rested on her shoulder. And then the reel moved, as if tugged from below. It slid beneath the seats and vanished into the darkness under the rows. The flashlight beam dimmed. Something brushed my ankle, soft and deliberate. I ran. In the lobby, every poster now showed the same thing. Me. Frozen mid-step, turning towards something unseen. Each photo a fraction closer than the last. I reached the door, shoved it open, and stumbled into the night. Fog swallowed the street. Behind me, the marquee flickered twice, then went black. Only one word remained lit, faint and pulsing: claimed. At home, the key wasn't on my desk anymore, but the flashlight had moved. Now, upright beside my bed, its beam faintly breathing. And taped along its handle, a new label read, House Lights 1012. The light on my nightstand had a pulse now. Not a flicker, not a glitch. A steady rhythm, like a heartbeat syncing itself to mine. Where are you listening from tonight? If your room has gone a little too quiet, just whisper back. It helps. I didn't dream that night. I didn't have to. The sound of the flashlight filled the space where sleep should have been. A low electrical hum, pulsing every few seconds like a breath under glass. By morning, the light was still on, but faint, its beam angled toward the floor. On the carpet, small specks of something gleamed in the light, silver, circular, like pieces of film. They led from the nightstand toward my apartment door, and taped to the door frame, waiting at eye level, was another note. The paper was damp, wrinkled, printed in the same old font. Tonight's program, one show only, attendance required. I didn't want to go back, but some places don't wait for permission. By noon, the key was in my pocket again. Ash Grove looked different in daylight. Smaller, harmless, almost ordinary. The parking lot shimmered with puddles from last night's rain. But as soon as I stepped inside, the same chill slid down my neck. The air hummed faintly, like the entire building was breathing through the walls. Mara wasn't at the counter. No one was. The lobby lights glowed dim amber, just bright enough to show the line of ticket stubs scattered on the floor, leading toward the back hallway. Each stub was stamped Theater 2, 10:12 p.m., and every single one had my name handwritten in ink. The hallway smelled of warm dust and something faintly sweet, like burned sugar. A noise drifted from ahead, the sound of a film reel running in reverse. Each rotation sighed, the kind of slow rewind that feels like a voice unlearning a sentence. Theater 2's door stood open. The screen flickered, playing a film backward, shadows walking in reverse, chairs unbreaking, light retreating into the projector. And over the sound, a low whistle, those same two notes I'd heard before. Then a voice joined it, close to my ear. "You came back late." I turned. Mara stood behind me, her face pale, eyes ringed with exhaustion. But her voice was different, lower, calmer, like she wasn't quite sure if she was awake. "You shouldn't have taken the key," she said. "It doesn't like to wait." "Mara, what is this?" I asked. "The film, the notes, why me?" She looked toward the booth door. "It's not about you," she said softly. "It's about the seat. You sat in it. You answered the sound." "The whistle?" She nodded. "That's how it calls the next one." The film reversed faster now, the images blurring into streaks of light. And then, for the first time, I heard voices on the reel. Not dialogue. Names. Dozens of them whispered in layers, each one spoken twice, once forward, once backward. The last name was mine. The projector stuttered and died. The light cut out. Total dark. "Mara?" No answer. But from the black, I saw it again. A faint glow behind the glass of the booth. Not from the projector this time, but from a lantern, or maybe the flashlight. It moved in slow circles, as if searching for something, and then I heard movement from the seats. Soft shifting, fabric creaking. One by one, the rows began to fill, shapes forming from the dark, human outlines, dim and pale, all facing forward toward the dead screen, their heads tilted slightly, waiting. Not hostile, just patient. "Mara," I whispered again. She was gone. Only her voice remained, disembodied now, layered among the others. "Sit," it said. "Show's starting." The flashlight in my pocket clicked on by itself. Beam trembling. Its circle of light landed on the same seat I'd sworn I'd never touch again. Row L, seat 3. Something inside me wanted to obey. Maybe because the room expected it. Maybe because the silence that followed was worse than fear. I stepped closer. The air around the seat pulsed once, twice, like a held breath. And then the screen flared back to life, blindingly bright. For a few seconds, I saw only white. Then an image formed. It was me, walking into the theater, exactly as I had a minute ago. Only this time, someone else followed. A taller shape in a long coat moving just behind me. The camera shook. The sound warped. And when the on-screen version of me reached the seat, he turned around, looked straight into the camera. Then the voice, his voice, my voice, spoke. "You're late." The flashlight fell from my hand, hitting the floor with a sharp crack. The light rolled toward the screen, illuminating the legs of the man from the film. No longer on the screen, but standing in front of it now. The long coat shimmered faintly. He raised his hand, holding the brass key between two fingers, and the seat behind me whispered again, "Sit." I didn't run, not this time. I turned to the seat. For a moment, the air shimmered above it, like heat rising from pavement. Then I saw her, Mara, sitting there, calm, hands folded in her lap. Her face was smooth now, peaceful, almost blank. "Is it over?" I whispered. She smiled. "Not yet. You still have to stay until the film finishes. But it's running backward." Her eyes flicked toward the screen. "Everything does eventually." She turned her gaze back to me, softer now. "When it stops, you'll understand why we don't turn on the lights at 10:12. The man with the coat stepped closer, his presence stretching the shadows until the whole room seemed to lean toward him. He placed the key in my palm. "Projection," he said again. Then the reel screamed. Light and dark folded together, the room spinning, the faces in the seats melting into pure color. And through the static, one word repeated, overlapping itself like an echo inside an echo. "Seat. Claimed." When I woke, I was outside. The theater was silent behind me. Fog rolled over the street, thick and slow. The flashlight was still warm in my hand, and the brass key, heavier now, had new text carved along its edge. "Property of Ash Grove Cinema. Projectionist number 8. I turned it over once, twice. The other side bore a fresh engraving. "Next show, 10:12. From across the street, behind the boarded glass doors, the marquee flickered back on for the first time in years. The bulbs spelled out 3 words in trembling light. "Now playing you." They say a film never really ends. It just waits for someone to start it again. And tonight, at Ash Grove, it's waiting for me. If you've ever walked past an abandoned theater and felt like someone inside was awake, tell me where. I didn't want to go back. But when I tried not to, the world around me started to fade, like the projector had cut power to everything else. Streetlights dimmed early. My phone died twice a day. Even the sound of my own footsteps started to echo wrong, half a second late, half a tone off. And each night, the key grew heavier. By Friday, I couldn't stand it anymore. The air outside smelled faintly of burnt dust and static, the same as the booth. When I passed the old marquee, it hummed softly, even though the lights were off. In my pocket, the key warmed until it almost burned. It was time. Inside, the theater looked different again. The lobby lights were gone. But Theater 2 glowed like a lantern in fog. The door cracked open just enough to breathe. The faint hum of the projector spilled into the hallway. I followed it in silence, the key pressed tight in my hand. The film was already running. No audience. Just the sound of reels spinning and the faint whisper of a voice beneath it. like someone narrating from another room. The screen showed the lobby from high above, every detail sharp. Even the dust on the floor moved like mist in the light. Then the image shifted. The booth, a single chair, empty. As I watched, a typewriter began to click behind me. I turned. At the back of the room, where no desk had ever been before, an old black typewriter sat under a hanging bulb. A sheet of paper was feeding through it, letter by letter appearing on its own. Show log, October 16th. Operator number 8. Status active. Note, film reversal complete. Projectionist assumed. The machine dinged once, then silence. A low whistle echoed through the room, 2 notes, slow and patient. And from the booth came the click of the lock turning. When I climbed the stairs, the projector light was already bleeding through the glass. Inside, the air was colder than ever. The reels spun without film. Light poured through emptiness, and on the floor lay the flashlight, still blinking, beams stuttering in sync with the reels. Mara stood in the corner, arms at her sides. She didn't move. "Mara," I whispered. Her head turned slightly. Her eyes were wide open, glassy, reflecting the beam of the projector. She wasn't breathing. Her lips parted, and the voice that came out wasn't hers. "You stayed through the credits," it said. "Good. Mara, please." Her head tilted the way the man's had, that same offbeat motion. "Projectionist number 7 failed to finish the reel. You will not fail." "Finish what?" "Light," the voice said. "Has to learn the dark before it can show the picture." She reached toward me, fingers trembling. The sound of the projector deepened again, a low mechanical growl. And on the glass window behind her, shadows began to move, figures rising from the seats below, row by row, until the whole theater below was full. Each one turned their head upward in perfect unison. Each one had my face. The flashlight's beam flashed red, then white, then red again. The rhythm matched my pulse. The key in my hand pulsed with it. The voices below whispered together, their sound blending into one steady tone. It wasn't language. It was like listening to static breathe. "Mara," I said again, "what do I do?" Her eyes twitched, almost like something inside her was trying to look out. "End the reel," she said. "End it before it loops." "How?" "Turn it backward." The projector's reels spun faster now, the sound climbing like a scream made of metal. I reached for the switch. The moment my hand touched it, every voice in the auditorium stopped. Silence. Then, one single whisper close to my ear, though no one stood near me. "Projectionist number 8. The flashlight turned off. Darkness filled the booth. Then, slowly, an image began to form. Not on the screen, but on the wall itself. It showed a single theater seat, empty, and written across the backrest in trembling white letters, "Reserved." The same seat I'd sat in, the same seat that had whispered. I took the key and turned toward the projector, unsure if I was supposed to lock it or start it again. The key slid in perfectly, like it had been waiting for this moment. When I turned it, the reels reversed direction. The hum softened. The air grew warmer. On the screen below, the audience began to vanish, one by one, like film being erased, until only one figure remained. Mara. She turned her head toward the booth window, looking straight at me. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Instead, new words typed themselves across the booth wall in light. "Thank you." Then she dissolved into the image, gone, leaving only an outline where she'd sat. The projector slowed to a stop. For the first time in weeks, silence felt like silence. I set the key down on the desk beside the old clipboard. As I turned to leave, I noticed something new carved into the doorframe. Number 9, fresh, sharp, and under it, in smaller letters, just one line. "You stayed through the credits." When I stepped outside, the fog had cleared. But across the street, every shop window reflected the same image. The dark outline of Ash Grove, its marquee flickering weakly. And for the first time, I saw what the light was spelling out in full. Next showing, tomorrow, 10:12 p.m. Projectionist wanted. They say films are ghosts caught in light. Every frame, a little haunting that remembers you back. If you've ever stayed through the credits and felt someone still watching from the screen, tell me what movie it was. The night after Mara vanished, Ash Grove felt like it had exhaled. The fog lifted, the air sharpened, and for a few hours, the world held still. I thought maybe I'd done it, ended the loop. But ghosts don't vanish when you fix their rules. They rewrite them. At 9:58 that night, my apartment lights dimmed, every bulb humming in perfect unison. I didn't touch the switch, didn't move, just listened. Then the flashlight clicked on by itself, beam steady this time, aimed not at the door, but at the wall opposite my bed. There, the light bent into a square of moving color, a projection, faint but unmistakable. The film was grainy, monochrome. The image wavered as though underwater, and through it, Mara's voice. Operator number 8, confirm presence. I sat up slowly. I'm here. The voice paused, then softer, almost kind. Seat confirmed. Reel continues. The square of light shimmered again. A face appeared, my own, but older, eyes hollow, skin stretched thin by years of projector glow. He smiled once, the same smile I'd seen in the film that night when the version of me turned toward the camera. You left it running, he said. Now it runs you. The image cut to black. Then a new frame appeared. The door of Ash Grove, still cracked open, a soft white glow spilling out. At the bottom corner of the projection, small typewriter text blinked. New print installed. Showing begins, 10:12. I should have destroyed the key, thrown the flashlight in the river. But when I reached for the drawer, both were already gone. The air in the apartment felt wrong, heavy with heat and a faint hum of film running through empty reels. Then the knock came. 3 slow taps on my front door. Even, calm, like the sound a theater door makes when someone checks the locks after hours. I didn't open it, didn't even move closer. But from the other side, a man's voice spoke, low and clear. Projectionist number 9 reporting for duty. My chest froze. I swallowed hard. You've got the wrong place, I said. A pause, then through the wood, not anymore. The key slid under the door, scraping the tile as it came to rest against my foot. Same brass. New engraving, Theater 2, new reel assigned. When I arrived at Ash Grove -- and of course I did, the marquee was lit again, humming faintly in the mist. But now, beneath the cracked lettering, a small sign hung crooked over the entrance. Private screening, staff only. Inside, the air shimmered with heat. The hallway lights pulsed softly, like a slow heartbeat. And at the far end, the door to Theater 2 stood wide open, golden light spilling out in a single straight beam. I followed it in. Every seat was empty, every armrest gleamed, except one. Mine, row L, seat 3. On the cushion, a film canister sat open, the reel half unspooled across the floor. I picked it up carefully. The label on the lid read, Reel 9, Final Cut. The edges of the film shimmered faintly as I unrolled it. Each frame was blank. No faces, no scenes, just my name, stamped frame after frame after frame. From the booth came a sound like breath drawn through teeth. I climbed the steps, reel in hand. Inside, the projector waited. Its reels spun idly, no film threaded, but the light burned strong, steady, pure white. A note lay on the console, typed, dated tonight. Instructions for projectionist number 9. Thread the reel. Do not stop until the final frame. Do not look away. When the house lights rise, leave your seat behind. I stared at it for a long time. Then, with hands that didn't feel like mine, I fed the reel into the machine. The projector took it gently, like it remembered the shape of my hesitation. The hum deepened, the light warmed, and then faintly the smell of burned sugar returned. I pressed the switch. The reel began to run. On the screen below, images burst to life. Snapshots of Ash Grove through time. Different decades, different faces, projectionists. Each one sitting alone in the booth, watching, waiting. Each one replaced by the next. Then, the final image. The lobby tonight. Me, standing in the booth, staring down at the screen. The camera panned slowly upward until it showed my face through the glass, frozen mid-expression. Then it began to burn. The celluloid flared white. The projector screamed. The whole booth filled with smoke that smelled faintly of ozone and old popcorn. And through the noise, I heard Mara's voice one last time, clear as air. End of reel. Leave your seat. I reached for the switch, but the key turned on its own. The reel's reversed direction. The image on the screen below began to rewind. My face unburned. The film unspooled itself, and then the light flickered once more. Softer now. Gentle, like a curtain closing. When I came to, I was sitting in the audience. Row L, seat 3. Empty booth above. The flashlight on the armrest, beam steady. I turned it toward the aisle. The beam caught something new carved into the floor. Operator 9 complete. Then below it, a second line forming letter by letter, pressed into the carpet by no visible hand. Seat available. The projector hummed back to life. Its beam swept slowly across the room until it found me, full in the face. And for the first time, the voice from the dark spoke not to me, but through me. Next showing begins now. Some lights don't turn off. They wait. And when you look long enough into that light, it starts looking back. Tell me, have you ever stayed somewhere after closing? Just you, the hum of the walls, and that feeling someone's waiting for you to move? When the light hit my face, it felt like heat from a sun that wasn't there. It filled my eyes until the rest of the room disappeared. I wanted to blink, but the light didn't let me. Then the sound came. Not the usual hum of a reel. Something slower, deeper, like breathing stretched out and mechanical. When I looked up, the booth wasn't empty anymore. Someone was standing there. Not Mara. Not the man in the coat. Someone else. Me. The version of me behind the glass was older again. Face paler, eyes darker, movements smoother, practiced. He looked down at me like an actor repeating a scene he'd already performed too many times. Seat claimed, he mouthed. Then the lights went out. When they came back on, the world had changed places. I was in the booth, looking down at myself, sitting in row L, seat 3. The projector hummed gently beside me, reels spinning without film. The flashlight rested on the console, still blinking faintly. 2 short pulses, a pause, 2 short pulses. The whistle in light. My voice came from below. It sounded tired. Why am I still here? I didn't answer, because something in me already knew the rule. Projectionists don't speak while the film runs. The clock on the wall ticked once. 10:12. The screen flared white, and suddenly every seat in the theater filled again. Hundreds of silhouettes, heads tilted forward, hands neatly in their laps. None of them moved. None of them breathed. The sound of the film reversed once, then steadied, and on the screen appeared an image that wasn't film at all. A door, old wood, half open. A room beyond, glowing faintly gold. Text appeared at the bottom corner, typed 1 slow letter at a time. Loop room. Entry denied. Behind me, the booth door rattled. Once, then again. The sound was patient, almost polite. When I opened it, the hallway outside was gone. In its place stood another theater, not the same shape, smaller, circular, its walls covered in mirrors. Each one reflected me standing in a slightly different pose, older, younger, shifting by frames like ghosts of time that never matched up. The air was cool, dry, and strangely clean. No smell of dust, no hum, just silence. Then, from behind one of the mirrors, a soft voice. "You stayed too long." I turned, trying to find it. Every reflection moved a half-second late. "You ran the reel backward," the voice said. "Now the film runs through you." A faint shimmer rippled across the mirrors. Each reflection began to move differently, some still, some smiling, some crying. One even turned away completely. And then all at once they whispered together, "Loop room." The key in my pocket vibrated. When I pulled it out, it was glowing faintly white. On its side, the engraving had changed again. Operator 10, final print. The mirrors began to flicker, each one showing a new scene. Ashgrove, in different years. The lobby being built. Mara, as a young woman threading her first reel. The man in the coat handing someone a key. A crowd applauding an invisible film. And in the very last mirror, I saw myself sitting in the booth, hands resting on the console, mouth open like I was about to say something I never finished. "Is this what happens?" I whispered. "To all of us?" The reflections nodded, one after another, like dominoes falling in slow motion. "You keep the story running," one of them said. "Every showing needs an ending. But it never ends. That's the point." The light from the key grew brighter, filling the entire room. The mirrors warped, their edges bending inward until the reflections began to overlap. Hundreds of me, hundreds of Mara, hundreds of projectors, all running, all watching. And through it all, that steady hum returned, the sound of film feeding through endless reels. Then a whisper threaded through the noise. "Exit through the frame." A single mirror at the far wall began to glow brighter than the others, its glass rippling like water. Through it, I saw the real theater, the one I'd left behind. Empty now, the screen flickering gently, waiting. I stepped closer. The key in my hand turned warm again, pulsing in time with the light. "Projectionist number 10, the voice said. "Return the film." I reached toward the mirror. The surface felt soft, like fog given shape. When my hand passed through, it came back coated in light, gold and weightless. The booth light dimmed behind me. The mirrors faded one by one, until only that glowing doorway remained. I took a breath and stepped through. The sound hit first, the rush of air, the hum of the reels, the whisper of hundreds of invisible watchers. I was back in theater 2, but not as it was. Every seat was filled now. Every face was turned toward me. Each one looked familiar, as though the film had taken all the projectionists before me and given them bodies again, row by row. At the back of the room, Mara sat upright, hands folded, watching quietly. Her lips moved just enough to form one word: "Run." The projector clicked on. The screen flared to life. I turned dash and saw that the film now showed the loop room, its mirrors dark, its walls empty. The light spilled out from the screen and across the audience. Each person began to fade. One by one, their outlines dissolved into dust and light, drawn toward the beam, folding into the image. Mara was last. She stood slowly, eyes calm, and stepped into the light without hesitation. Her voice lingered after she vanished. 10-12, she whispered. Always 10-12. When the last of them was gone, the screen went black. The theater sighed. I walked down the aisle, the key still glowing faintly in my hand. On the seat where I had sat, a new label waited, fresh tape, neatly typed. Seat claimed, loop complete. I set the key on the cushion. The moment I did, the projector shut off. The light vanished, and for the first time, Ashgrove went completely dark. Outside, the marquee flickered once more. The bulbs glowed white, then blood red, spelling out something new. House closed, film archived. I almost smiled until the last light flickered again, shifting one letter at a time until the message read, "Archive loading." And beneath it, in faint gold script, "Next reel, home." When the story decides it isn't done, it follows you home, frame by frame, breath by breath. What room are you in right now? If the light just flickered, stay with me until it steadies. I locked my apartment door 3 times that night, not because I thought it would help, just because pretending to feel safe still worked better than nothing. The flashlight sat on the counter, quiet now. The key was gone. The air hummed faintly, as if the walls had swallowed the last note of a song. When I finally lay down, sleep came fast. Too fast, like someone had dimmed the world for me. And when I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in bed. I was standing in front of the Ashgrove Cinema. Only it wasn't the same. The sign above the doors read, "Archive, access pending." And below it, in smaller type, "Operator 10, confirm return." I didn't speak, didn't move. The door opened anyway. Inside, the lobby was gone. Just rows of shelves stretching into fog. Metal racks filled with canisters, labels written in the same typewriter font. Each canister bore a name. Dozens, hundreds. Some were new. Some were so old the ink had bled through the tape. I saw Mara Lynn near the front. Below it, Edgar, Pauline, Stanley, unknown number 6. And near the bottom shelf, one that hadn't settled yet, the ink still glistening wet. M.E. When I reached for it, the shelf exhaled. A slow, mechanical sigh, like air being released from a sealed box. The canister pulsed once, then fell open in my hands. Inside was a strip of film, still warm. Each frame showed a room in my apartment. The table, the bed, the front door, all empty, except the last frame. That one showed me standing by the window, looking out, with light spilling across my back. Only I hadn't stood there yet. A soft voice came from behind me. "You shouldn't be here." I turned. Mara stood in the fog, her cardigan pale and ghost-like, her hair loose around her face. But her eyes were clear again. No glassy stare, no shadows moving behind them. "I thought you were gone," I said. She smiled faintly. "I was, but the archive keeps copies." "What is this place?" "The reels remember us," she said. "Every projectionist leaves a frame. Every frame becomes part of the film. And what happens to the originals?" She looked away. "They fade." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of something slow and patient, like static building behind glass. Then she handed me a single slip of paper, typed, crinkled at the edges. "Final rule. Operator 10. Watch until it ends. Don't rewind. Don't look away when you see yourself." Mara's voice softened. "You've seen what happens when you break rules. I never meant to." "You answered," she said simply. "That's enough." The fog behind her shifted. A faint white glow appeared, growing brighter until it shaped itself into a doorway, the frame of a screen with light bleeding through its edges. "That's your reel," she said. "The last showing. What happens if I go through?" "You'll finish it," she said, "and maybe it will stop." I stepped closer. The light felt warm this time, not harsh. It hummed softly, like a projector idling at the end of a reel. Before I crossed, Mara reached for my wrist. Her hand was cool and steady. "If you see me in there," she said, "don't follow. We all get one showing." Then she let go. The light swallowed me whole. For a moment, I thought I was standing on air, just light and sound and the faint smell of warm celluloid. Then the world clicked back into shape. My apartment, exactly as I'd left it. The flashlight blinked twice on the counter. The hum from the walls was back, but the air had a depth now, a sense that the room was larger than it looked, like more space existed just behind the walls. And then I saw the projector beam. It wasn't coming from a corner or a ceiling. It was coming from the hallway, a white rectangle of light cutting through the dark, pointed straight at me. Inside that beam, faint images flickered, frames of my own life projected in reverse. Me walking backward through the theater, me stepping out of the booth, me sitting in row L again. Then a new image, me standing exactly where I was now, looking toward the beam. Only this time, someone else stood beside me, a figure in a long coat, half in shadow. The same voice as before whispered from the light, "Projectionist number 10, final frame." The air vibrated, deep and resonant, as though the entire building took a breath. The flashlight clicked off. Silence. Then softly, "Sit." My knees weakened. I sank onto the edge of the bed without meaning to. The beam stretched farther, reaching my chest, then my face, until I could see the faint outlines of shapes moving inside it. Dozens of faces, pale and blinking, each one fading in and out like ghosts of film. They were all looking at me, and behind them, faint but clear, was Mara. She didn't speak. She only raised a hand and pointed toward the corner of the room. I turned. There, on my wall, the shadow of the old booth window shimmered faintly. Through it, I saw my own reflection standing behind the glass, older, thinner, waiting. He smiled once. Then the light cut. The room went black. The silence that followed was almost gentle. I thought it was over, until I heard the projector start again. Only this time, the sound wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside the wall. Softly, slowly, a strip of light began to slide out from the plaster, curling toward the floor. A reel of film, still warm, and printed across the first frame in my handwriting. Next show, 10:12. From the corner of the room, the flashlight flicked back on, casting its beam toward the door. A new shadow stretched across it, someone standing just outside. And from the other side came a soft knock, 3 times. Then a voice that sounded almost like mine, "Projectionist 11, reporting for duty." There's a rule every projectionist learns too late. You don't stop the reel until it stops you. If you're hearing this, you've already taken your seat. The knock came again, 3 times, slow, measured like someone keeping time with my heartbeat. The door creaked open on its own. Beyond it wasn't my hallway. It was the lobby of the Ashgrove again, empty, silent. The walls breathing faintly under the hum of film that shouldn't have existed anymore. And standing in the center of the room was me. Or him. The next one. He was dressed in the same clothes I wore that first night. I followed the flashlight's beam into the theater. The denim jacket, the scuffed sneakers, even the same small tear at the cuff. Only his eyes were wrong. They looked like the spaces between frames, black, flashing, hollow. "You've run your time," he said softly. Archive confirmed, reel loaded. I wanted to move, to run, to scream, but my body didn't belong to me anymore. The air thickened, heavy as syrup. Every sound slowed down until even the hum of the light stretched into one long, endless breath. "What happens now?" I whispered. He smiled, and in that expression I saw the ending. "You pass it on." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the key. Not brass this time. It was glass, catching light from nowhere, refracting it like 1,000 small memories at once. He held it out to me. I didn't take it. "I'm not doing this again." "You already are." He stepped closer. The air rippled with heat. Behind him, the projector flared to life, white light pouring across the lobby, spilling into the fog that had replaced the exits. From the light, shapes began to emerge, every operator before me. Mara, the man in the coat, the janitor, the boy from Brookale, the detective from Parkway, the college student from Greenfield, all of them stepping quietly from the light, forming a circle around us. Each held a key. Each one whispered the same phrase in perfect unison, "Seat available." The new projectionist raised the glass key. It hummed in his hand like a living thing. The circle tightened around us, their outlines flickering like old film stock. I felt my heartbeat slow to match the rhythm of the reels spinning in the unseen booth above. "This is how it ends," he said. "Every frame has to burn." He pressed the key into my palm. The moment it touched my skin, the light changed, warmer then blinding. The air tasted of sugar and static. And from somewhere inside that brightness, Mara's voice returned one last time. "Don't rewind." The reels snapped. Light exploded through the theater, flooding every crack, every seat, every inch of carpet until there was nothing left but white. I fell backward, weightless, into it. And in that falling, I saw it all. Every showing that had ever played at Ashgrove, every audience that had sat there unaware of the reel looping just beneath the picture. I saw each operator take their turn, their faces merging, flickering, becoming one endless exposure. Then the film began to curl. The light grew hot. The air thickened with the smell of burning acetate. One by one, the figures dissolved. Their keys shattered into dust that shimmered like stars. Even Mara's voice thinned until it was barely more than a thought. Then, silence. When my eyes opened, I was sitting in an empty field. Morning light, dew clinging to my sleeves. The air smelled clean for the first time in weeks. Ashgrove was gone. No building, no sign. Just a single strip of film lying in the grass beside me. I picked it up carefully. It was warm. One frame remained intact. It showed the interior of a theater. Row L, seat 3, empty. Below it, written in faint gold ink, "Archive complete." I exhaled. And for the first time since that April night, the world stayed still. That should have been it. It was. Until sunset. When the wind shifted, I heard it. A low, steady hum rising from the horizon. Then faintly, like the first flicker of light through old celluloid, a single phrase whispered across the grass. "Next showing begins now. If you're reading this, don't look for the Ashgrove. You won't find it. It finds you. When the lights dim and the screen glows that first pale white, don't blink. If the air smells like burnt sugar, leave. And if you ever see row L, seat 3, no matter what movie, what town, what theater, don't sit there. Because once you do, the reel starts again.